Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another dispatch, another week. Very sunny day, warm. Spring is definitely upon us here. Well, I guess it's been a while. Right, we're in April. Here we are. So more Soutine. I'm going to read more from Andrew Forge's introduction on Soutine and see where we get to. It's long. I'm not, but I'll read it. It's good. It's really good. We know nothing of what Soutine did as a student at Vilna, but we can guess from the evidence of his earliest surviving pictures that he would have been taught the dark tonal naturalism, which was until so recently the universal language of the academies. These early pictures, such as the studio at the Cité Falguiere, the still life with soup tureen, still life with lemons, are in essentials remarkably consistent with the work of his maturity, although they are full of hesitations and crudities, and the handling is immature and sometimes strained. But all the hallmarks of his vision are here. The character of the image that convinces us that the subject was before his eyes when he painted it. The vitality with which the forms are described. The expressive deformation in the drawing. These elements are hardly to be separated. They are integral to his vision. Nothing is to change here as the years go by. Nothing drops out. Only at certain times and in individual pictures, one or another of these aspects will perhaps come to the fore. He will become more skillful, certainly, and above all, his handling will become more free. But all that this means is that his relationship with the paint itself becomes subsumed more fully in his relationship with the things he is painting. It is impossible to say how much Soutine knew of modern art before he came to Paris. It seems unlikely that he would have come into direct contact with any aspect of it in Vilna, but that is not to say that he would have been completely ignorant of it. Lithuania was part of Russia, and there must have been some echoes in Vilna of the artistic ferment of pre-war Moscow. He could have seen the magazine Apollon, for instance. It seems even more likely that he would have been aware of current tendencies in Germany, for Jewish culture tended to be oriented towards Germany. If he had seen Pan or Die Insel or Der Sturm, as seems quite likely, he would not only have known of Van Gogh and Cézanne, Matisse and Picasso, but also of the artists of De Broca, of whom both Kushner and Haeckel might well have stirred him. At any rate, the principle of expressive deformation would not have been unknown to him before he reached Paris. Once in Paris, the interesting thing is that he does not appear to have hesitated for a moment. This is striking when one considers the multiplicity of directions in which painters were thrusting, the very painters with whom he was mixing, and the inevitable difficulties and anxieties that must have crowded in on him at this time. But he doesn't seem to have experimented or to have faltered in his stance. What this stance amounted to was, first of all, a total commitment to direct painting from nature and a consequent rejection of all the synthetic aspects of modern art. Ever since the 1880s, the main line of artistic thought had been a kind of criticism of realism, of impressionism, of plein airism, that is, of the whole naturalistic tradition of the 19th century. One wing of this criticism, descending from Gauguin, had been concerned with a dematerialized expression, an art of mood, of symbol, of states of mind. Another, descending from Seurat and Cézanne and Van Gogh, had concerned itself with confronting appearances with the reality of the picture and with questioning the formal as well as the representative possibilities of the picture. What was common to all these efforts was that they started from an analysis of pictorial means. This was obviously the case with artists who rejected painting from nature in favor of a more inventive approach. It was no less so with a painter like Bonnard, who, while retaining the Impressionist language, synthesized it from memory rather than face-to-face with his model. Or with a painter like Matisse, who tended to work to the limits of abstraction, but with the model in front of him. When difficulties stopped me in my work, Matisse says in Apollinaire's famous interview, I said to myself, I have colors, a canvas, and I must express myself with purity, even though I do it in the briefest manner by putting down, for instance, 4 or 5 spots of color, or by drawing 4 or 5 lines which have a plastic expression. This standing back from the means of expression, as though from a self-sufficient keyboard, is fundamental to the development of modern art. In rejecting the descriptive role in painting, it is also rejecting the muddle of appearances, the vague, streaming quality of visual impressions. It puts observation, response, the complexity of nature at a discount and makes every claim on invention and constructive simplification. That's really clear. That's really good. Description is ousted by metaphor, observation by invention. All this amounts to the outlining of a new art in which the emotional center is located in the picture itself, its surface, its nature as an organism, and by the implication, it dismisses, and by implication, it dismisses the old art in which the emotional center is in what is represented. Soutine was in no doubt as to where he belonged. He identified himself wholeheartedly with the tradition of painting in front of appearances. For him, contact with the subject was an emotional necessity, and nowhere in his work is there the least hint of the kind of formalistic experiment or technical perfectionism that is implicit in all the synthetic art of his time. We feel that to him, painting was a far more direct activity. He was close up to the sensations of seeing, feeling, experiencing. No process of analysis and synthesis mediated between the experience and the picture as it does in, for example, Bonnard and Matisse. For him, painting is an inspired muddle, a sort of wrestling with experience rather than a standing back from it or an extended transformation of it. He was, in fact, like a 19th century painter, a realist. Except that for him, this was a brand new thing, rather than the culmination of a long tradition. We pause there. There's a great section that's coming up right after that, where he compares, Forge is comparing Soutine and Van Gogh. It's brilliant, but might be just too much in one thing. All right, that was good. I like that. Well, should we read more? I don't know. Let's pause. We're gonna pause. I'll come back. I'll read more of this next time. We'll go into Soutine and Van Gogh. Okay. I hope you're all well. I hope you're making stuff. And yeah. Okay. Hang in there. Take care.